All right, what is up, everybody? We are back with another edition of Everyday Hoops. Hope you guys are having a good one. Today, we're going to talk about this Kevin Durant trade scenario, situation, and stuff. A lot of news has been coming out in the past few days. I want to talk all about it, different landing spots, things I think are right and wrong, all that stuff here in today's video. Thank you guys for the views on the videos and the shorts recently. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the content around here, consider subscribing, liking, turn on notifications, doing all stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it. It really helps out a lot. Link to my Twitter and all that stuff down in the description below. And yeah, do you want to spend more of your time? Let's get right to it. So, Kevin Durant, we all know he's getting traded. A lot of reports are saying that it probably will happen very, very soon. You know, they're trying to get it done probably before the draft so that if they have any extra draft picks they acquire or all that stuff, they're trying to just get out the way as early as possible so that we can go into this offseason, this draft and summer, you know, doing what we want to do and not having to worry about having this on the team where we already know he doesn't want to be here and we don't want him here anymore and all this stuff. And yeah, there's been just a lot of reports and a lot of different things coming out in the past few days about what teams he wants to go to, what teams want him, what teams don't want him, all this stuff. The first report, well, not the first report, but one of the more major reports came out. I want to say, I think it was Friday or Saturday, over the weekend, where Shams reported that the Rockets, the Spurs, and the Heat are the three teams that Kevin Durant wants to go to, because those are the three teams that he's willing to commit to long term. Those are teams that he's willing to sign a contract extension with and be around. So those are presumably the three destinations that Kevin Durant wants to go to. But also a part of that report, the Suns say that they are going to maybe try to do what's best for their franchise. You know, and maybe that's not necessarily sending KD wherever he wants to go, you know, because we still got to do what's best for us. Apparently in that report too, they said there were 6 to 8 interested teams. There's a lot of other teams that have probably been involved with the Kevin Durant trade. Minnesota has been a team talked about. I even saw, I forgot who reported, like the Raptors, the Clippers, Raptors and Clippers are teams that are kind of involved right now. And there's been a lot of news and reports going out about like KD doesn't want to go here. This might be a landing spot, but this team doesn't have really the package that the Suns want, and he wants to go here and all this stuff. And yeah, the main three teams are right now San Antonio, Houston, Miami. So I want to talk about those three teams first and what it would be like for Kevin Durant to go there. For the Houston Rockets, I just think that's kind of the move. Honestly, if I had to bet on where I think KD will go, I kind of think the Houston Rockets are number one. The Rockets just makes a sense. The Rockets, you have the young players, you have the capital, and it just, when you're the Rockets, you're already a 50-something win team, you know, without having a legitimate superstar caliber player. Yes, Kevin Durant is a little bit older. Yes, you might have to give up a young player or two, but at the end of the day, if you're the Houston Rockets, you have a good infrastructure already. You have a Men Thompson. You have guys like Jalen Green, Alperen Sengun. You have a defensive infrastructure. You have something really good going on. You just won 50-something games in the Western Conference, which is not an easy thing to do, especially for a young team like this that has really not very, very little playoff experience besides like 2 or 3 players on their team and their coach. So Kevin Durant going to Houston, I would like to see it. I mean, adding someone that can score on the perimeter is a big thing because the Rockets are not a team that can shoot the ball very well. They don't have a lot of amazing perimeter creation, you know. And Kevin Durant going there would just really help a lot. I also would really like to see him with Jalen Green. I feel like he can help Jalen Green and a lot because Jalen Green has kind of been like the main creator on the perimeter, and sometimes that gets a little rough. So having Kevin Durant to kind of alleviate some of that pressure would be really nice. And I just think that's kind of the move right now for Houston. I think it makes the most sense for both sides as well. The Houston Rockets could give a good package to the Suns without having to gut a lot of, you know, their team and giving up all their future assets because they have so many young players and so many things they have going on right now in terms of assets that they don't have to give all that up for Kevin Durant. They might have to give up a little bit here and there, but not a crazy amount because the Suns don't really have a lot of leverage, I feel like, in the KD sweepstakes. So Houston looks like a team. The Spurs, you know, at first I think there's a report a week ago that Bill Simmons was kind of saying I think the deal might be done already. They're just waiting for it to go out and all that stuff. And the Spurs are an interesting team. I just got a report, I think, was it last night or this morning, that said, like, the Spurs, KD wants to go to the Spurs, and that's, like, the number one on the list and all this stuff. At first, I was interested in the Spurs a lot for Kevin Durant, but to be honest, now I kind of not really super in love with the Spurs Kevin Durant. Not saying that he won't help the Spurs, because he obviously would. But I also think for the Spurs, once we learn that Giannis Antetokounmpo is not on the market, and basically we know Giannis is going to stay in Milwaukee, I kind of think that was the game plan for the Spurs to go after Giannis. Kevin Durant, while it would be a really good, you know, pairing, having a Wemby, KD, Fox, big three. That'd be really nice in a Western Conference. It just, I feel like getting Kevin Durant shortens the window. With Giannis, he's only 30, 31, so you have time left. Kevin Durant is about, what, 35, 36 now? Kevin Durant doesn't have more than maybe 3 or 4 years left in him. So really, if you're getting Kevin Durant, it's kind of banking on we got to win right now. Like, we have to be a playoff contender in the next 2 years. And while that is a possibility because you have Victor Wembanyama and you're going to have Kevin Durant, you're going to have a good team of stars, I just don't know how ready the Spurs are to go there. If the Spurs, they're probably ready to reach the next step in terms of competing for a playoff spot and making the playoffs, all that stuff. They're ready for that. But I don't know if they're ready for, those high expectations of we got to win a chip in the next few years type of thing. I don't know. I just don't know how ready they are and how their roster's ready, how their players are ready for that. I don't really know yet. So getting Kevin Durant will kind of shorten the window and the time you have. But maybe they're thinking, you know what? We're just gonna bring KD. He's the best player available. We're gonna play him next to Wemby, and we're just gonna kind of rock out and see what happens. Which I don't really mind that a lot. If it does happen, I wouldn't be too mad at it. But I don't know. I'm not as in love with KD to the Spurs. I feel like maybe a lot of other people. And then Miami Heat are the third team, which is a very interesting third team to have in here. The Heat don't have nearly as many assets as the other two teams have. They've already kind of mentioned that Hero and Bam are not going to be involved in the deal, which makes sense because if I'm KD, I'm going to Miami to team up with those guys. I don't want to trade one of those guys. So I guess the Heat package probably is like what, Khalil Ware, and some draft capital, which is not an amazing package, I guess. But maybe Kevin Durant wants to go there. Maybe it's the fact that it's in the Eastern Conference. And maybe you're seeing the Eastern Conference is kind of wide open right now with so many things going on. You see next year the Celtics aren't going to be as amazing next year where Jason Tatum's going to be out. They're going to have to trade some people. The Bucks, they're still trying to figure out how they're going to build around Giannis. The Cavs are good, but are they ready to reach the next level yet? We don't know what their team's going to look like. The Sixers, on paper, should be better next year, but can we really guarantee that? The Heat are kind of, not the Heat, the Hawks are kind of in this mid-range. The Magic got better, but how good are they now? Like, the Eastern Conference, the Pacers are still going to be there, but I think we could put a team together. The Pacers, like, maybe it's just, like, looking at the Eastern Conference and being like, there's no guarantees in the Eastern Conference, really. And the East is kind of like a open spot where there's no really 1A, and then it's everybody else, kind of like in the West where it's OKC. You have, like, so many different crazy teams in there. So maybe KD's like, what, I'm just going to go to the Eastern Conference. We'll go to Miami. They have some decent players over there. They got a good coach. And we're just going to go over there and we're just going to try to see if we can make it easier on ourselves to make it far. It's easier to make it far over there than to stay here. So Miami's an interesting one. I don't see it happening. But then again, I kind of wouldn't be too shocked because the NBA is just so weird that I wouldn't be too shocked that Miami somehow pulls this off just because. Even though Miami in the past few years has been a team notable for not pulling off the trade for star players. When KD was around a couple years ago, the Damian Lillard, Bradley Beal, like they swung and missed on a lot of stars. So I wouldn't be too surprised if it happens again. And then you have other teams involved. The Minnesota Timberwolves have been a team talked about for a lot. Minnesota was a team, honestly, if it wasn't for, the three teams that KD wants in Houston, San Antonio, Miami, Minnesota would be my number one. I would absolutely love KD in Minnesota. Kevin Durant and Anthony Edwards on the wing would just be a great team. They already have made it to the conference finals twice in the last few years. It would be interesting to see what the package would be like, though, because there were reports before the KD, before he said, I don't want to go to Minnesota, that Randall Gobert would be in the package and all that stuff. And while that will hurt the defense a lot, keeping Jaden McDaniels around while you have Anthony Edwards and Kevin Durant, like, that I would just like to see it. I think it'd just be really fun. But apparently Kevin Durant doesn't want to go to Minnesota. But there's also reports, I think, yesterday saying that the Suns, are kind of hoping that maybe KD opens back up the idea of going to Minnesota because the Suns want to send him to Minnesota, and the Suns really like the Timberwolves package, and they think that's the best package they have available. So the Suns are kind of hoping and willing that Kevin Durant kind of retracts and be like, Minnesota isn't bad at all. And if that happens, the likely of it happening, I don't really know. I wouldn't be, I think there's definitely a possibility that he goes back and be like, you know what, Minnesota isn't too bad, It also is depending on, again, Kevin Durant, what Shams reported in the tweet that said those are the teams Kevin Durant will commit to long term. And maybe those three teams have already kind of maybe stated or hinted that they're willing to commit to him long term. Kind of like with the Jimmy Butler situation, But Jimmy Butler was like, I want to go to Phoenix, as Phoenix openly said we're gonna pay him the money, and it's only Phoenix. And then at the last second, the Warriors are like, you know what, Jimmy, you want money? We'll give it to you. You can come over here because we need you. You know, so maybe that could be a similar situation to Minnesota, where Minnesota's like, you know what, there's nothing really else going on right now. We need to make a big swing. Katie, we'll give you the extension. Come over here. You know, and maybe that's available. I don't really know what other teams would be involved. You know, like other teams I hear, like the Raptors and all that stuff, would doesn't really make sense to me because the Raptors aren't in a spot to really contend right now. If I'm KD, why am I going to Toronto? You know, I mean they have some good things going on. I like what the Raptors are building a little bit over there. They got some good young players, but they're not. I'm 35, 36 years old. I'm not sitting around for a retool to maybe make a play in and all that stuff. Like I'm trying to win. You know, I'm trying to win a championship. Before I go. So the Raptors just aren't a team interested there. Then all the other teams kind of just don't really have the package for KD and don't really have the things for it. So I don't know. Maybe does a surprise team come out of nowhere? I don't know. That could be very, very interesting to see what surprise team would really be in there trying to make calls and all that stuff. But yeah, the situation is just very interesting. I mean, obviously, it's weird because everybody in the world knows that he's getting traded. We've known for like 2, 3 months, even more. We've known since around the trade deadline, really, that like Kevin Durant's probably not going to be a Phoenix Sun any longer. And now we just have to play the waiting game, which is the toughest game to play in this situation because now all we're going to see is rumors and reports. All we're going to see the next couple of days until this trade happens, all we're going to see is, oh, this team right now is in the lead for KD, but this team doesn't want to give up this for KD. KD kind of wants to go over here instead of over here. This team has put in an offer for Kevin Durant. We're just going to see so much talking and so many reports and rumors that maybe half of them aren't true, half of them are true. We don't know what's real or what's not real and all that stuff. Does he want to go here? Does he want to go there? Does this team actually want Kevin Durant? Are the Suns talking to this team, or is this just, a facade going up to kind of, push the other teams to making better offers? And like it's a lot right now. It is a real lot right now. But me personally, what I think is gonna happen, I think it probably will happen. I'm gonna say the draft is about on the 25th. I would say probably they say it should be they want to get it done before the draft. I would assume this weekend. I'm gonna say this weekend. I'm gonna give my prediction and say this weekend. It's gonna be when the trade actually does happen. Maybe like a Saturday night type of thing where it just kind of explodes and it's just like, oh shoot, here it is. It just happened. I assume that type of thing. And the team, honestly, I think it's going to be the Houston Rockets. I do think it's going to be the Houston Rockets are the team he's going to go to. I just think it makes the most sense for me personally. I think the Sun, they have the best offer without giving up an insane amount for Kevin Durant. Like they're not, well, they have so many assets that they don't have to give up all of them to get Kevin Durant. They can just give up a bench young player or two that's not really playing a whole lot, a couple draft picks, because apparently in the report, Kevin Durant trade isn't going to go for as much as the Desmond Bane trade did with picks wise, because the Suns are getting young players more instead of picks, and they still want to build like I feel like they still kind of want to be a little bit competitive with Devin Booker still around and Bradley Beal still around next year. They still want to be some sort of competitiveness. So yeah, man, I'm just really waiting to see. Let me know down in the comment section below what you think. Your predictions, what you think is going to happen. Where do you think KD goes? When will it happen? And all that stuff. And yeah, now we just have to play the waiting game. But yeah, it's gonna be it today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Once again, if you enjoyed the content around here, consider subscribing, liking, turn on notifications, doing all stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it a whole lot. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow.